Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Huddle, where we come at you weekly to discuss maintaining forward progress in your flooring career, any career for that matter. As we've found through this journey, most of the concepts here are just concepts we learn in business. Just so happens we're in flooring. Hopefully, we're able to provide some value for you guys this week. Last week was about goals and setting them. This week, we are going to be talking about really the value in the plan to succeed and your goals. As you work through them, the real value is just as important in the plan as it is the success itself. So really just a boiled down concept as we go talking about goals and sorry, a little tongue tied, achieving those goals. So, we talked about writing them down and all of that. So creating a plan is kind of the next step for any goal. And I'm not going to go through, I'm sure we'll touch on some ways that each one of us plan, but I just wanted to bring up that the real value, as I talked about last week, and you guys discussed as well, that failure should not be looked at as just this big negative thing. That's where we learn. That's how we adjust and kind of get on course. They say a missile on a way, like a laser guided missile on a way to its target is off course about 80% of the time. It's always off course and correcting as it goes, right? Wind blows it and it comes back, and it's always failing, and it fails its way all the way to that target. And that's how we have to be. We have to believe that as long as we're moving towards that goal, as we hit failures, we just readjust and come back into keeping that target or that goal in our sights. So I'll give you an example. I've been working on a large national account deal, and I did we're working on a coating to be chemical resistant and different things. So we've worked with many different coating products, and each one of them have failed in some manner and just guided us to either the next product, or, for example, I read some results or looked at some results from a 24-hour test, and one of the main products or chemicals we have to test against is acid. Well, with 24 hours of this coating being down and 24 hours of dwell time with the harsh chemical of acid, it has failed. The coating failed. So we would expect some level of that failure, and that's going to tell us what's next. And so what I'm saying is, don't look at it as a negative thing. And that's kind of what this is about, making your plan, but realizing that when you get off course, if you just understand that that's not failure, that's just telling you to adjust and get back on track to that target. So I know I've got a lot of that's happened in my life and happens daily. I kind of accept failure as just a tool. That's where I gain my tools and my toolbox to attack different scenarios in business or in installation or whatever it may be. So what's your guys' thoughts on that? I know it's kind of a continuation of last week, but I didn't want to completely abandon goals. They seem to be, like the paramount thing that we should all do.
Right. I totally agree. With us being co-owners, and we're constantly coming up with ideas, him more than me, right? But a lot of the time it's like, that's a dumb idea. And then a lot of the times it's like, you know what, we're just gonna do it your way. And then when it comes down to it, it's never like an I told you so, or I told you this wasn't gonna work. It's like, we tried. Let's do something else now.
And just to go back on that too, like, preferred flooring is my third time trying to do a flooring business, installation business per se, but it was everything that we learned from day one, from the first attempt to the second attempt, from the first partnership, separating from that gentleman, going on my own, trying to go the women business enterprise route. That didn't work out. Trying to have my mother become, 51% owner, that didn't work. But each step of the way, Daniel was part of that. Whether he knew it or not, he was still part of it. And then we got to this right here. We already knew exactly what we didn't want to do. And that was because of, like the perception of failure. Didn't fail, it just didn't work. So make some changes so that way we can all learn, so we can be better this time. And that's really all it is. It's hard for some people to view it that way.
I know it can be tough in the mix. It can be really tough. And I've got some, different scenarios that I could run through. I wanted to keep this kind of concise on technique of getting through those things. But if you're pushing the limit or you're pushing the barrier of what you've done before, you are going to have some setbacks. That now learning from those is what I'm preaching, what I'm saying we should do. I know that's difficult. It's especially difficult when money's involved.
Yes.
And finances and things like that can really stress. I know from experience, it can stress that your tolerance, if it was a rubber band, it's stretched all the way out sometimes when you add money to the mix. So what I would say is the plan is part of that. So you're trying to make as best of a plan as you can to achieve whatever goal you have in mind. Now, goals vary so much that I think it would be, you could waste 2 hours or use 2 hours of time trying to, run different types of goals through this theory. But the fact is if you can have a good plan, you'll eliminate some of the failure than just going at it. You know what I mean? If you want to be, I don't know, if you're a small business owner and you want to double your growth, well, how do you achieve that? You don't just say, okay, I'm going to go bid twice as much work. I mean, that would make sense, but that might not be the best way to go about that goal. So really making a plan. We found in that kind of a realm that monitoring our land rates with each estimator and type of project and stuff like that was a good way to look at it and plan based off of the feedback given. So a lot of times what I'm getting at here is the plan turns into action, turns into feedback, turns into readjusting and more action. And that's kind of what the way that I've looked at it. I'm not great at executing on it. I'm good, but I'm not great. I got a lot of room to improve. I know some guys that do that process and they just seem, some of these guys just seem like they're supermen when it comes to like being able to adjust from a plan that they had to reach a goal, adjust and then react with the same target in mind, but readjusting. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating when you see guys at the top of performance. And, we all know the Elon Musk of the world. If you look, I've read his book, and if you look through all the setbacks and failures and changes and things that he had to go through to get to the point of launching a rocket. I mean, I know we're not launching rockets over here, but my point is that readjusting and not taking that as a failure. So
yeah, that's a hard one to get through, right? Everyone sees all the successes that you have. They don't understand the steps that you've taken to get there. They don't see all the failures, but one success can have 100 failures. But as long as you have that one success at the end of 100 failures, because you're learning from it and your process is going to evolve. And to add on to what you said about the gentlemen who are like supermen, some guys, they have that strength where they just have that foresight. Like, they start seeing those dominoes falling in a pattern that they don't want it to fall. So they start adjusting before it gets to the last domino. And then they veer a little bit, and they help it out. They help steer it the way it needs to be done, to experience the success they're looking for.
I think a lot of that comes from the plan itself. I can do better at putting more effort in the plan of achieving a goal. I think that's where I can improve, to be honest, and possibly be able to course correct sooner, just like you said, that you see something's going to go wrong as opposed to waiting for it to go wrong. So I would say some specific techniques. Have you guys used any, do you guys, when you set a goal or you have something on the vision board, do you track the progress versus a timeline? Or have you started that
That's
process?
that's something that we have to work on too, is actually setting dates, I think, right? Because we set open-ended goals like we want to get here, we want to have this done, but then the vision board is kind of what put this in my head, is because we talked last week about baby sister and doing the vision boards and stuff, and we told the guys, hey, do the vision boards. We still have a handful of guys that haven't got it done. So it's like, you guys had 2 weeks. Like, there's no reason for this. Like, this stuff has to be done by next week. No ifs, ands, or buts. Set the date. That way you have something to shoot for. Because realistically, humans are procrastinators, right? We're going to wait to the very last minute in order to get something done.
Well, I read a quote that said, if you give yourself 30 days to clean the house, it's going to take you 30 days. If you give yourself 3 days, it'll take you 3, or 3 hours. I mean, the point is setting some aggressive timelines to it. How efficient you are in that last, if we use the house, the last day that you're cleaning the house, you are ultra efficient and really good. The 29 days ahead of that, you may not have been near as efficient. It's like when that deadline's there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's setting that deadline. I think is a big thing. And then Rollin actually asked if any of us have sat down and built a short-term and long-term business plan. And we have not, but I have talked to the Small Business Development Council, because they give free classes, and they'll actually assign you someone that'll actually work on it with you. And I've been talking to them a little bit and trying to eventually get something set up to the point to where I can break off and actually take some time to do it. But have we actually done it? No. And that's something that we need to improve on too, is actually putting something like that in place. Coming from how small we were to where we're at now, we never really thought that we would need one. But then the bigger you get, the more you realize, like, man, it would have been way easier if we would have did this like 5 years ago, when it was just a handful of people. And we actually, you don't think about it, right? Because we were in the field all the time, and it's like, but really we had more time back then than we actually do right now.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works. We kind of touch on that. I can't remember which huddle it was, but we kind of touch on that same thing, where doing it early, whether you're just getting started, get a bank account, get an entity set up, doing those things early will come out, you'll come out ahead. And it's similar to that. It took us several years before we did that, but we have done a few times short and long-term business plans. The short term is always a breakdown of the long term. It's like the kind of plan within a plan is the way we've done it in the past. Again, sometimes we don't hit those objectives, and then sometimes we've surprised ourselves. So either way, you kind of just have to, be fluid in it, meaning don't take anything, I probably didn't do anything ultra great when I got surprised and things went well. Sometimes things just work out. Well, sometimes things just don't work out, and you got to adjust as well. But, so the answer is, yeah, we have on our side done short-term and long-term business planning. A lot of that you can do with your banker as well. If you got a good banker, they love to do that stuff. If he's a good banker, a hands-on kind of guy, I found those guys are pretty they're pretty bought into your business because they're helping you finance the thing. So a lot of times they have an inherent, skin in the game, so to speak. But that's awesome. You guys are going to take the step with the Small Business Administration. Is that correct? Or is that
Small
through?
Business Development Council. So
Okay.
we got introduced to them through the local chamber, and then when we started looking at getting certified to become a minority business enterprise, it's something that I never even knew existed until I started looking into it. And it's like, man, these guys offer a bunch of stuff at no cost, and it's like, might have to take advantage of this sometime.
You get into the right programs and the right groups, there's a lot of information at your disposal, a lot of help, right? But it's one of those things, they're not gonna grab your hand and walk you through it. They're gonna say, this is the direction you have to go. This is where your information is located. And
Yeah, you got to take some initiative.
yes, they'll bring you to water, but they're not gonna make you drink.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times you bring up a good point that there's a lot of resources out there that we probably, it'd be helpful if you kind of understood what the chamber brings. I know the chamber is involved in a lot of that in different, different cities. So a good piece of advice might be to get with your local chamber and ask about small business resources and planning. Business planning gets really deep past goals, even because you start really planning on not just financially or size or whatever your goals are, but you're really getting down into the nitty gritty of how you're going to get there and what your assets are from a financing standpoint, and if those all align for you to actually be able to hit that goal or make that business plan a reality. So it's a good exercise. I would just reiterate that the importance of like being okay with not hitting that. It's always a touchy subject because you want people to go at their goals aggressively, but at the same time, not be deflated if you don't hit those. And I know I keep harping on that, but I've personally been affected in the past where you have this goal, you really think you're going to hit it, and then things don't happen the way you want them to, and it can be deflating. I just want to encourage people just to kind of strap up your boots and realize that that's a possibility. And when it does happen, don't let it deflate you. Just realize that that's course correction and to get back on the right course.
Right. And I think a lot of this has to do like, we're talking about the chamber and stuff like that. And a lot of this kind of came our way because a friend of mine that I went to high school with reached out, and his dad was vice president of one of the larger construction companies over here at the time. And he was like, hey, are you a part of the Minority Contractors Association? And I was like, I have no idea. And then he got into how it's part of the chamber and how, they got this going on. And then it's like, it's the information, right? And then you have to be vulnerable to actually realize, all right, I have a goal, but I don't know how to get there. I can actually have resources at my, fingertips to ask questions. So I can say, hey, I'm kind of stuck right here. It's not even, can you help me? It's, do you know anyone that can help me? Because their network is so vast that they know everyone in the area. And they're like, they're quick to put out a name. Boom, this person will be able to help you out. Boom, this person will be able to help you out. And we talk about networking all the time, and usually we're talking about, going to the conventions and stuff, but this is a great local networking type of thing to where they do, man, they can kind of put your goals into smaller chunks, like, and things that you never really thought about. So they'll take it and be like, well, have you tried this? And it's like, man, I never even thought of that. And then that's all you need to get going.
Yeah.
Connect the dots for you, man. They help you connect the dots.
Well, and getting you in touch with other people that you can communicate with. The old saying, your network is your net worth. And it has to do with surrounding yourself with people with like mindset and surrounding yourself with people who are goal oriented and being able to utilize other people's wisdom. I do a lot of quotes here, but I heard a quote that a smart man learns from his own mistakes and a wise man learns from others. So, you know, if you can kind of get to know other people that can help you see some of those pitfalls in growing business, then that's a net plus. So that's what you get from the chamber, right?
Yeah, and it's like a trickle effect, right? You start with your goal in mind, and then you meet other people and then bounce ideas off of them. And then that's where you start, going all over the place, right? And readjusting. And that's kind of what we've done. And then through the chamber, we've also joined our local builders exchange. And then through the builders exchange, there was a group of guys, two guys in there that just started a construction company. And it was like, I already met one of the guys at the gym when he worked for another one, but it was like, that got us talking. And I was just at lunch with them earlier today, and we're doing, projects for them now. And it's like a lot of this networking stuff and talking to people about your goals actually leads you to expanding that. Like, I never thought that doing this one class was going to lead us to, I think we've done 4 jobs for them this year. And they were pretty sizable jobs.
Well, that's where you find synergies, right? That is when you're working next to people and you end up things just seem to work out. Those are synergies that, because you have similar goals or similar aspirations, and you're working with other people that share those synergies seem to happen, and you just that's pretty cool.
It was an odd class too, by the way. So just to let everyone know, it was called
Applied estimating.
Applied estimating. We were the only flooring individuals in there, but we just wanted to learn more, and it led to that. It was just a class to help educate us through the general contractor's eyes for contracts. And
Actually, it was through the architect's eyes.
architect's eyes, correct? Yeah.
Wow.
And the guy that was leading the class, actually, like, it got down to make sure you read everything in the contract, because they'll put line items in there like, include this in your bid. And if you don't, and you win the bid, guess what? You're coming out of pocket for that now.
Yeah, we did a bit of a dive on the contracts and stuff in an earlier huddle. They can certainly, make or break you. But learning from, the people you get around, I think one of the things that all this kind of plays into is, again, getting involved. So many times small business owners don't believe that they should take the time to go to these classes or to, expand your knowledge. I would say when we did the huddle on starting your business or expanding your business, we talked about the need to, gain knowledge, educating yourself. And you guys have obviously done that. And that's admirable and also very necessary to take those next steps. It's all kind of priming the pump, so to speak, to take you to the next level. So I know it can sometimes feel like, I don't have time to do X, Y, and Z. And we're all in that boat. Like, you guys are busy. You have to make the time for that, right? You guys had to carve out the time and just go.
Yeah, it goes back to what I like to say all the time. I started saying it when we switched over from 1099 to W-2, right? And it's like, we keep on saying that I can't afford it, right? And at some point we have to start switching our mindset to, we can't afford not to do it. So that's kind of what we've been doing. And
you got to start being proactive instead of reactive. When you're reactive, it might be a little too late. And you still learn. If you're reactive, you're still learning. But if you're proactive, you're making corrections before the bad situation arises. And
well, you're planning.
That's what I was gonna say. It all goes back to actually having a plan.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this is gonna be a shorter huddle than normal. just because we really dove pretty deep into all these concepts last week. I just wanted to expand on, you know, the plan itself and understanding that the, you know, all these things, the journey, not the destination, all of that stuff is because of what you learn during the planning and start in that execution or the journey phase. Most people get to a goal and they're like, that's not as satisfying as I thought, but they really look back and say, man, I learned a lot through that process. So that's what I'm encouraging everybody to do, is to kind of push yourself to expand your limits and, you know, make a plan, realize that we're not writing down the 10 commandments in stone. We're putting our best guess as imperfect human beings as to what we want to have happen. If it doesn't happen exactly that way, we just have to course correct. So awesome. Well, I know this was really short this week. You guys got anything to jump in on and anything to add before we close it up for this huddle? Short week, short huddle.
Yeah.
Just, I would say to everybody, just understand that no matter what you're doing, if you're trying to grow, expand, or if you're trying to stay just an individual or with a couple of employees, just know that you're going to look back at what you've accomplished and do yourself a favor. Make sure that you're proud of what you accomplished. Make sure that there is no regrets, right? Like, don't regret anything. Do your best to try to put yourself 10 years ahead and look back. You'll see what corrections need to be made. It'll give you a little bit more drive if you're not in a good spot right now, or if you want to be in a different spot. There are options.
And I'll just say what I just said. It's you got to stop saying that you can't afford to do things and start realizing that you can't afford not to do them.
Good pieces, guys. Good nuggets. I appreciate you guys this week, and we'll see you guys next week. And we're gonna work to publish what each week's huddle is gonna be on our website, so everybody kind of knows ahead of time what we'll be talking about. We're gonna set that up. We're trying to make things kind of flow, so we should have that up before next Tuesday, we're hoping. But otherwise, we'll continue to be on the huddle. You guys, anybody on, we certainly appreciate you joining us. And if you have any questions, you know, please feel free to ask those questions. I would say the one bit of communication here is the question of ethics when it comes to all of this. So I would just say, you know, doing things ethically and trying to do things what is, you know, considered to be right can get blurred sometimes. You have to really rely on your morals sometimes and making sure you're doing right by your company, your employees, and society as a whole. When you're making these plans, this isn't just, a lot of times if we're planning just on our for personal goals, you know, it can feel really selfish. That's okay, but at the same time, you gotta have a good moral compass to what you're going against. Money, just gaining money, I think is where that comment came from, shouldn't be the goal. I mean, you gotta do the things that make the money as the goal and let money come. You do good work, you do good quality, be trained, do good business practices, that eventually turns into money. So that's the best way I can answer that question or comment. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you joining, and I'm going to call you on the phone after this.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.